May is one of the most exciting and pivotal months in the gardening year, a time when the garden truly comes alive, bursting with new growth and possibilities. But with all that potential comes a unique set of challenges that can make or break your entire season. It's easy to get swept up in the energy of spring, but May is also one of the easiest months to get wrong. A single misstep now, planting too early, too late, or choosing the wrong crops, can ripple through your garden for months. What you plant in May isn't just about following a calendar. It depends completely on your local climate, your soil temperature, and your goals. Whether you want quick harvests to enjoy in a few weeks, or you're setting up for a bountiful summer ahead, even within the same region, microclimates and weather swings can change everything. Many gardeners head into May armed with a long list of vegetables and a ton of enthusiasm, but without a real strategy for how those crops will work together over the coming months. That's where things can start to unravel. The difference between a garden that produces a steady stream of harvests all season and one that feels overcrowded, empty at the wrong times, or constantly behind often comes down to having a clear decision framework. It's not just about what you plant, but when, where, and how you plant it. That's why, in this video, we're not just going to rattle off a giant list of vegetables. Instead, we'll break down the 3 key decisions that actually shape what you should be planting right now, and use those to build a crop list that fits your garden, your climate, and your goals. We'll dive into fast-growing crops you can harvest in just a few weeks, the warm season plants that define the summer garden, the art of succession planting, how to use soil temperature as your guide, and the one crucial factor most gardeners overlook in May, but shouldn't. Whether you're a new gardener or a seasoned pro, this framework will help you make smarter decisions, avoid common pitfalls, and set your garden up for a season of success. Let's get into it. Before anything else, a quick but important note on growing zones, because, what to plant in May genuinely varies by where you live, and it's worth being honest about that up front rather than pretending there's one universal answer. Zones 3 to 4. Last frost just passed or still possible. Soil warming up. Main opportunity. Direct sow cool crops. Start warm season transplants outdoors carefully. Zones 5 to 6. Frost risk largely gone. Soil 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Prime planting window. Main opportunity, the full range. Cool crops still viable, warm season just starting. Zone 7 to 8. Warm days, mild nights, some cool crops bolting. Main opportunity, transition month. Warm season is primary, some cool crops on the way out. Zones 9 to 10. Hot. Truly cool season crops like spinach and peas are done. Main opportunity, heat-tolerant warm season crops only. Begin thinking about fall. The bulk of this video is aimed at zones 5 through 7, where May is genuinely the most action-packed planting month of the year. If you're in a colder or hotter zone, adjust accordingly. But the decision framework coming up applies everywhere. And a quick practical note, if you don't know your USDA hardiness zone, your zip code or postcode into the USDA plant hardiness zone, map will tell you in seconds. It's worth knowing. Okay, zones aside, let's talk about the 3 decisions. The first decision every May gardener needs to make, usually without realizing it, is whether they're optimizing for speed or for the long season. Speed crops are vegetables that can go from seed to harvest in 30 to 60 days. Plant them in May, eat them in June and early July. They're immediate gratification. Radishes, lettuce, spinach for the last of the cool season, green onions, arugula, bush beans. These crops don't need much planting, they don't take much space, and they don't demand much of your soil temperature. They're the low-effort, high-reward section of May planting. Season crops are the ones you're planting now, precisely because they need the whole summer to produce. Tomatoes, peppers, winter squash, pumpkins, sweet corn, melons. These take 70 to 120 plus days to harvest. If you don't plant them in May, you're either starting from behind or skipping them entirely. These are the crops that require the most planting, the most soil warmth, and the most patience. Most gardeners plant their season crops in May and forget to also plant their speed crops. Then they end up with nothing to harvest until July or August while the long season plants are still growing. May is big enough to hold both. Do both. So, which are you short on right now? If your beds are empty, the answer is both. If you already have tomatoes and peppers started, the answer is speed. Hold that thought while we work through the actual crops. These are the crops you can plant in May and be harvesting before summer is properly underway. Several of them are cool season crops, which means May is actually near the end of their ideal window, so if you want them, don't wait. Radishes, the fastest thing in the vegetable garden. Direct sow, thin once, harvest. Brilliant gap filler between slower crops. Lettuce, especially leaf lettuce, still viable early to mid-May in most zones. Choose bolt-resistant varieties. Cut and come again for weeks of harvests. Spinach, bolts in heat, so sow early May only. In Zone 7 and warmer, skip and wait for fall. Baby spinach harvest from around 25 days. Arugula, more heat-tolerant than spinach. Harvest young before the bite becomes too sharp in warmer weather. Green onions or scallions, direct sow densely, harvest when pencil thick. Keep sowing every 2 to 3 weeks for continuous supply through summer. Bush beans, need soil above 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Direct sow only, they hate transplanting. Sow every 10 to 14 days for continuous picking. Beets, hardy, versatile. Harvest baby beets early or let them size up. The greens are edible too, so you're getting double value per row. Kale and chard, both are cut and come again for months and more heat tolerant than spinach. Transplants give you a head start. A few things worth saying about these. Radishes are massively underused by home gardeners who think of them only as a garnish, but they're one of the most valuable tools in a small garden because they harvest so fast that you can sow them in the gaps between slower growing plants, between young courgettes, between pepper plants, between rows of onions, and pull them before they're crowding anything out. That's productive space that would otherwise be empty soil. Beans are the other one that deserves special attention. Most gardeners do one big sowing of beans in May, and then, well, they end up with more beans in a 3-week window than they know what to do with. The better approach, and it genuinely changes the season, is to sow a short row every 10 to 14 days from now through early July. Stagger the plantings, stagger the harvest. Each sowing takes up almost no time, and the result is fresh beans steadily for 2 to 3 months rather than a glut and then nothing. If you're in zones 6 and warmer, look specifically for varieties labeled slow to bolt or heat tolerant on the packet for lettuce and spinach. A regular variety planted in mid-May in warm soil can bolt in under 3 weeks. The right variety buys you an extra month of harvest. Here's the decision most gardeners skip entirely, and it causes more disappointment than almost anything else in May. The question isn't whether it's May. The question is whether the soil is actually warm enough for the crops you're about to put in it. Warm season crops like tomatoes, cucumbers, melons, peppers, and beans need soil temperatures to be in certain ranges to perform well. This is not a guideline. It's basic plant biology. Seeds that go into cold soil don't germinate well. Transplants that go into cold soil sulk, sometimes for weeks, sometimes permanently. Their root systems are damaged by cold, and they never fully recover their growth momentum. Tomatoes and peppers ideally want soil at 60 degrees Fahrenheit or higher for transplants, but really prefer 65 and above. Cucumbers and squash need soil around 65 to 70 degrees minimum to germinate well. Beans need at least 60 degrees, preferably warmer. Melons and sweet corn also prefer 65 to 70 degrees soil. A cheap soil thermometer from any garden center gives you this number in 30 seconds. The other thing to check before transplanting is the nighttime low. Even in May, a cold snap into the mid-30s can set tomatoes and peppers back significantly. In most of zones 5 and 6, that risk largely clears in the second half of May, but check your local last frost date before the really tender stuff goes out. The takeaway here: don't plant because it's the first week of May and you're excited. Plant when the soil is ready. 2 weeks of patience at the start of the season is worth more than weeks of stalled growth trying to recover from a cold planting. Once the soil is ready, these are the crops that go in May and define what your summer harvest looks like. They're called anchors because they're typically the biggest, longest growing, most space-occupying plants in the garden, and decisions about where to put them shape everything else. Tomatoes, the one everyone's already thinking about. May is the classic transplanting month in most temperate climates for tomatoes. The key decisions here are indeterminate or determinate varieties and days to maturity. Indeterminate tomatoes keep growing and producing until frost. They need caging or staking. They take up significant space, but they give you months of fruit. Determinate varieties produce a concentrated harvest and stop, better for preserving or smaller spaces. Days to maturity matters too. A 65-day variety planted in mid-May gives you ripe tomatoes by mid-July and a good summer. A 90-day variety may not ripen until late August, which in shorter seasons can be cutting it close. Cucumbers are one of the best May direct sow crops because they germinate fast in warm soil and grow aggressively. The case for trellising cucumbers is strong. It saves ground space, dramatically improves airflow which reduces fungal disease, and the fruit hangs straight and clean rather than curling on the ground. A simple vertical support structure makes a cucumber plant twice as productive in half the footprint. For cucumbers especially, and honestly tomatoes too, the single best upgrade for a small garden is a good vertical support. Growing cucumbers on a trellis rather than along the ground improves airflow, cuts down on disease, and saves a huge amount of bed space. The trellis netting linked in the description below is what tends to come up consistently in the organic growing community for this. It's simple, reusable, and works with almost any DIY frame. Links below. It's an affiliate link, so it costs nothing extra and helps support the channel. Summer squash and courgette or zucchini. May is the prime planting window. Worth knowing, these are prolific to a fault. 2 or 3 plants of summer squash will produce more than most families can eat. Seriously, most gardeners' mistake with squash is planting too many. 1 or 2 plants per variety is enough for a household. Peppers are probably the most cold-sensitive of the common vegetables. Peppers genuinely want soil above 65 degrees and nights above 55 to thrive. In zones 5 and 6, this often means the last 2 weeks of May rather than the first. If you transplant too early and hit a cold week, peppers can stall completely and take weeks to restart. Patience here is directly rewarded. Winter squash and pumpkins need a long season to mature. Most varieties need 85 to 110 days to harvest. Plant them in May in zones 5 and 6, and they're harvesting in September. Any later, and you're potentially racing against early autumn frost. These are sprawling plants that need serious space. Sweet corn is often treated as an afterthought, but worth including. Corn needs warm soil to germinate and does not like to be transplanted always direct south. It's wind-pollinated, which means it needs to be planted in a block rather than a single row to pollinate properly. Mid-May is ideal for tomatoes, cucumbers, and squash. Late May is usually better for peppers, beans, and sweet corn. Melons can still go in early June if needed. The third decision, and this one only applies if you've been gardening since March or April, is about what's already growing and what's about to come out. Because the most underused real estate in any garden is the space that's about to be vacated. If you planted peas in March, they'll likely be finishing by late June or early July. That bed doesn't need to sit empty for the rest of summer. It can immediately go to beans, beets, kale, or a late cucumber planting. This is succession planting, and May is when gardeners who think this way start pulling ahead. The basic idea is simple. Look at what will finish in the next 4 to 8 weeks and start planning the replacement now. Spring peas can be followed by bush beans or beets. Spring spinach can be followed by kale or chard. Spring radishes can give way to basil or lettuce. Garlic harvested in late June opens up prime space for another crop entirely. The practical implication for May is this. While you're planting summer crops, also start some succession crops indoors or in a spare corner of the garden. That way, they're ready the moment space opens up. Let's spend a few minutes on something less glamorous than here are the vegetables you plant in May, but honestly more valuable for how your season actually turns out. Gap filling is the discipline of never letting productive growing space sit idle. Empty soil in a garden is wasted soil. Bare ground invites weeds, dries out faster, and loses structure. The best May gap fillers are radishes, bush beans in short rows, densely sown scallions, and basil planted between tomatoes. The timing concept to internalize is this. Look at your seed packets and count backwards from your first expected frost date. If something needs 70 days to maturity, you need at least 70 frost-free days left to make it worthwhile. That's how experienced gardeners keep finding planting opportunities all through summer. The thing that makes succession planting actually happen rather than just being a good intention is having seeds on hand. The frustrating version of this is discovering a gap in the garden, deciding you want to fill it with beans or beets, and not having seeds. The version that works is having a small seed collection stocked. The one linked in the description is a well-curated set of the fast-maturing vegetables that are most useful for exactly this kind of gap-filling and succession sowing. Good germination rates, clear days to maturity on the packets, nothing exotic. Linked below, affiliate link, appreciate the support. Here's the thing, almost know what to plant in May video says. May is also when you should be making a first pass at your fall garden plan. This sounds early. It isn't. Brassicas, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage are almost universally better as autumn crops than spring crops in many climates. The flavor improves after light frost, pest pressure drops, and the plants grow into cooling weather instead of racing against heat. But to have those crops ready for autumn harvest, the seeds often need to be started in late June or early July, which means you need to be thinking about them now. The gardeners with the longest, most productive seasons aren't necessarily working harder. They're just thinking a few months ahead. The garden that produces from May through October doesn't happen by accident. It's built on layered planting speed crops now, summer anchors going in, succession gaps identified, and fall crops already on the radar. So, what to plant in May? But really, what this video was about is how to think about May, because the right crops depend on the decisions you make, whether you need speed or season, whether your soil is actually ready, and whether you're thinking about the space you have now and the space you'll have in 6 weeks. The vegetables that fit those decisions, the radishes and beans for speed, the tomatoes and cucumbers and squash as your summer anchors, the succession plantings filling the gaps, those are just the execution of a plan that starts with clarity about what the garden needs. Everything mentioned in the video is linked in the description below, including the affiliate links. That's how small channels like this keep going, so thank you genuinely for using them. If this helped you think about May differently, a like and a subscribe means more of this kind of content reaches people who need it. Drop a comment with what you're planting this May. It's genuinely interesting to see how different the answers are depending on where people are gardening. Now get outside. The soil is warming up.